I'd lost my job, thinking like, where is this going to go? And here I am, fast forward a few years later, on a plane home, having just delivered this strategy presentation to the CEO of the company, realizing all this stuff works out in reverse. With you as a leader doing that, you're then showing them what does it look like to fail forward. Yeah. And you're developing the behaviors you want your team to see. And so you're telling them it's okay to fail. Yep. It's good to fail. If we fail, that creates a learning moment that helps us then grow and get better in the future.
Most definitely. I used to tell everyone the number one advice I would give is never give up. And it is true. Never give up. Stay consistent. Welcome to the Chris Salerno Show, your go-to for real estate, business, health, and family insight. I'm Chris Salerno, CEO of QC Capital. Each episode, we explore the latest trends and expert advice from industry leaders. Whether you're an investor, entrepreneur, or seeking balance, this show provides an inspiration you need. Join us and elevate your game on the Chris Salerno Show. Welcome to the Chris Salerno Show. I am your host, Chris Salerno. Very excited to have Andy on here. Wealth of knowledge. Excited to get into your background and your journey to come over to the United States as well.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Excited to be here today.
Most definitely. Give a little bit about your background, what you're currently doing right now.
Yeah, so you mentioned coming over to the States.
That's right.
Originally from England.
I hear the accent.
This is not a fake British accent. I could have worked on it for a while. It's the real thing.
I dated someone. She was from the UK.
Oh, okay.
But I wouldn't be able to tell because I haven't spoken to her in a while, so I wouldn't be able to, call you out on it. But it sounds good.
All right. So yeah, moved here in 2005 for college and grew up near London. I ended up moving to Charlotte to go to Queen's University and got my MBA. And the last 10, 11 years have been in finance and mortgage and kind of developing a career around leadership, business consulting, program project management, strategy, and customer service.
Okay,
yeah.
Very nice.
And so a couple of years ago, launched a coaching and consulting business that has really become my passion. I think my journey, as we'll probably talk about today about, through leadership, I've really found fulfillment and purpose in helping people reach their full potential.
Most definitely.
So doing that as a leader was hugely fulfilling. I realized I should do this outside of my corporate gig. I should do this for fun. And it's really been a fun journey of helping other people find their purpose, learn and grow as people, professionals, and ultimately helping them set them on a path for success. So,
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. And before we dive deep into that, what made you come to the middle of the East Coast, Charlotte, North Carolina, to go to Queen's University? Because over there in Europe, they have phenomenal universities, phenomenal education system.
Yes.
So what was that? What was that thought process? How did the parents, think of that when they're like, you told them, hey, I'm going over to Charlotte, North Carolina. They're probably like, what?
So long before Charlotte actually starts 1991.
Okay.
I came on my first trip with family to the States.
All right.
My mom has family here. My brothers were going off to college. And so I was in this place called Disney World. And I said, man, when I grow up, I want to move to Disney.
Yeah.
And so as a 5-year-old, came back to England with the LA Gear shoes with the little lights in the heels.
Yeah.
It was the first one in the UK.
My son loves those.
I said, when I grow up, I'm moving back to America. So fast forward, one of my brothers came over to the States on a basketball scholarship.
Okay.
He was in Oklahoma.
So sports runs in the family.
Yeah, big
Love
sports family. He went to Oklahoma to play basketball. I said, man, I'm going to follow in his shoes. I'd love to do the same. But I didn't grow very high.
Yeah.
I don't
Where
look
did
like
he get
player.
his height from?
So we were both guards, both point guards. But he was a bit quicker than me.
He was.
A little bit taller.
Hey, at least you're giving him the credit.
Right. So I picked up golf and still had a dream like, hey, I still want to go to college
golf
in
is it's a long-lasting sport. Like you normally have a good long career. Like you can have, look at Tiger Woods, look at those big players. You can have a long career in golf.
You can. Yeah, the professional thing wasn't for me. It just wasn't quite good enough, but I had a passion for it. I told my PE teacher, I think in maybe like the 8th or 9th grade, hey, I'm going to go to America on a golf scholarship.
What'd she say?
It was a he.
Oh, he.
And he laughed at me.
Yeah. It's funny how all these education, the professors and teachers, they don't come across positive towards their children. The only positive they come across that I've noticed, because I was in special reading classes throughout high school, college, you name it. And the only positivity they come across is really putting you in the system. Hey, you have to go to college to be successful, or you have to do it this way, no other way. Like they're not positive of, oh, you want to be an entrepreneur or a business owner? Go do it. You want to go and travel across the world to play golf? You can do that. Like, I wish there was more positive about that.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that's beautiful about life is charting your own path, figuring out who you want to be, understanding your unique gifts, your traits, your abilities, And then like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm
Correct.
still trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
But golf was a vehicle to get me here to the States.
I love that.
I moved to South Carolina. I was actually in Spartanburg
Yeah,
for
mine is
undergrad.
Spartanburg.
Yeah.
Greenville, South Carolina is a beautiful. We actually
Sure
own a
is.
car wash in Greenville, South
cool.
Carolina. Yep,
Yeah.
just closed on it a couple of weeks ago. So
Congrats.
congratulations to the investors. Thank you, thank you. We love that market. We've owned real estate out there for the past couple years. It is a phenomenal market, nice town, growing substantially.
Yeah, and beautiful people.
Oh my
and
God,
the
yeah.
opportunities are growing there. And so I fell in love with the South. I thought, okay, South Carolina, these people are so friendly. I remember my sophomore year of college. I'm at an auto shop getting my tires changed, just reading through ESPN magazine. And I hear from across the little waiting room, hey man, are you ready for football season? I looked up and I'm like, who is that talking? And it's this old guy who's a Gamecock fan. He's fully decked out in his gear. And I said, these are my people. This is my pace of life. I love the South. And so I then came up to Charlotte. I think
Are you a big fan of grits?
grits? Yeah, but they got to have butter, be well salted.
Cheese in it?
Oh yeah, 100%.
I will tell you. So I'm flying out tomorrow, and every time I go to the Amex Lounge, they always have cheese grits. Normally, last time they didn't have it.
Yep.
But the cheese grits. If you haven't tried it, I recommend trying cheese grits.
The last 2 times I've flown out, gone through the Centurion Lounge, haven't had the grits, so I'm gonna look for them.
Check, because last time they switched it up on me, and I was like, "That's the only thing I was looking for."
The grits.
It was those grits, but those are good. Yes, so I'm glad you got accustomed to that and the barbecue, the hush puppies, all that.
of it. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, my wife's from Gastonia, so she's
Oh,
local.
she knows.
She's got me up to speed on everything I was missing food
There
wise.
you go.
But moved to Charlotte in 2010, and I thought, okay, this is Spartanburg, but way cooler.
Okay.
More opportunities, bigger city.
And you
pro
probably had a
sports,
deep
so-
accent then of
I did.
UK.
Yeah, I think after 18 years, I flow in and out of Southern and British.
With certain things.
Yeah, I sound a bit Australian some days. But
I could get that. I could get that. Oh yeah, most definitely. So, came over here, loved Spartanburg.
Yep.
Walk us through, how'd you arrive in Charlotte?
So I was part of a college golf team,
Yep.
and my coach had just moved from Charlotte to Spartanburg to launch the golf program at
Got it.
USC Upstate.
Yep.
And from his time in Charlotte, he ran the volunteering on the driving range at Quail Hollow at the Wells Fargo Championship.
Love Quail Hollow.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I've been to the Wells Fargo
Been to the
Championship.
tournament?
Yep, it's gorgeous.
Great. Yeah. So he told me and all my teammates, 10 freshmen, you guys want to come up the week after finals, come up to the range and volunteer with us, and just hang out on the PGA Tour with these pros, be like this close to them.
Why would you say no?
I mean, I couldn't help myself. I was up there for probably 70 hours that week volunteering, and then
Unbelievable.
flew home to England. And so I did it every summer after finals. And I think my junior year, kind of rising to senior year, one of the guys that was volunteering, a guy named Eric Baldwin, who used to work at Queen's, he said, "Hey, what are you going to do next year when you graduate?" I said, "Well, I love helping people. I love golf. This business degree, I don't really know. Maybe I'll be a golf pro and I'll teach people how to play.
There you go.
And I can kind of pursue that path." And he said, "Well, what about getting your MBA?" And I said, "My hoop dreams are over, man. I'm not a basketball player. I'm 5'10". That's never going to be my future." I didn't know what an MBA was.
Yeah.
Grew up in England, like you said, the school system, the education.
Different type of verbiage over there.
Exactly.
all
I
that.
didn't know what an MBA was.
Yeah.
And so he gave me an opportunity to come to Queen's, be a grad assistant, help
Love
run the
that.
golf program, and get my MBA.
I
And so
love
that's what
that.
brought me here in 2010.
So I will tell you, fair warning, if we do go golfing, I will have a cigar and I'll be your best cheerleader.
Fantastic.
I'll make sure your drinks are cold when you get back to the golf cart, but I cannot hit that ball to save my life. Now, I will try. Don't get me wrong. But my thing is after about 5 swings, I can throw it. So that's how we play. Is after 5, I'll just toss it. We'll on the cart. I'll have the cigar. We'll have a good time.
That's the beautiful thing about golf, right? It's a good time because of the
is.
fellowship. It doesn't matter what your standard or level is.
Correct.
Everyone can
just have a good time.
Have fun.
Most definitely. Okay, so came over here. Now you're at Queens. You're doing that. Walk us through that journey.
So coming to Queens was amazing.
Yeah.
The faculty at the time in the business
And
program.
what year was that?
2010. Was
Okay,
when I moved here.
so I moved here in 2007. So so we've been on the same journey. We've seen the growth.
We have.
It's
across
unbelievable.
the city. It's been
Crazy.
amazing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and Queens is well positioned right there in Myers Park, which is just beautiful.
It is. Yeah. Gorgeous campus, small enrollment, small faculty. And so at the time, all the faculty that I was in classes with weren't just professors, they were practitioners. So we're sitting in a lecture hearing about the time that this guy negotiated with Sam Walton and talked him down the price of jeans that they were selling in Walmart stores.
No way.
To an attorney turned professor who had just all this incredible experience. And so it was an amazing time at Queen's. That was around when I figured out, I think I want to figure out what my purpose in life is.
Yeah.
Simon Sinek had just put out the book Start With Why. And we had every semester they would bring in executives and CEOs to do these roundtables with us.
And it's perfect because Charlotte, a lot of people don't know this. Charlotte is the second biggest financial district in the United States.
Sure.
And I've been to Chicago, which I love Chicago. I didn't realize how big Chicago was as a city. I mean, flying in, I was like, holy cow, Chicago's ginormous.
Yeah.
Charlotte, you and I can walk around Charlotte or jog, in about 3 hours. Like it's small. It's the inner city is actually very, very small compared to San Francisco, Chicago, especially Manhattan. And it's so shocking that so many large financial institutions are here. So it just makes a perfect area to connect.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you've got not just those finance companies, but other big entities, companies that are here in Charlotte. And it's such an attractive city to move to.
Oh, yeah.
It's easy for me to come visit and say, oh, this is where I want to live. And so other companies do the same. They come to town,
Most definitely.
see the cost of living, say, oh, I can move my employees.
We just
here,
had a
and all
luxury
kinds.
broker on here, and we were talking about it. And I used to be a residential broker as well. The cost of living in Charlotte is so cheap compared to most places. And especially right after COVID, everyone flocked down here, especially from up north, because, up there, the size of this room is $2 million, where down here, you're going to get a 15,000 square foot home, and your taxes are going to be cheap.
Yeah, it's such a good cost of living.
Most definitely.
The restaurants, the experience, the people.
Yeah.
This is it's a great city to live in.
Oh yeah, very much so. So down here, really getting immersed. Now you're helping out with the golf, getting immersed, at Queens. And then what was that? That step while you're at Queens, to prepare yourself leaving there.
Yeah, I had a timeline. The MBA program was going to be a couple years, 2.5 years.
Yep.
And so beyond that, I knew Charlotte was where I wanted to be home. I had built great community and friends here. I got plugged in at church and volunteering and really felt like, okay, I could see myself for a long time. So then it was like, what do I do with my next steps? I'm a foreigner. And so I'm here on a student visa. So I did a 1-year work experience that then turned into a full-time work visa.
Let's talk about the student visas. A lot of people don't understand those.
Right.
We actually work with EB-5 clients, so investors that are looking to, get that path to citizenship here in the United States through investing. I ran Division I track, and one of our top athletes at the Winthrop University D1 college I ran at was from Italy. And so I got a little understanding, on visas and things like that through him. But talk to us about that process of being here on a student visa, your timeline on after, because I know he got sent back to Italy, which Italy is amazing. It's beautiful.
Not a bad place to get sent back to.
Yeah, I know, right? But talk to us about, that timeline too, and how is that mindset, with knowing those timelines?
Yeah, one of the things, it's a decade ago, beyond that, when I was graduating 15 years ago now, one of the things I learned back then that my brother didn't know when he came over for college was this thing called OPT, optional practical training. Okay. And it's at the end of a degree, you get 1 year of work experience that you can apply with your degree to go work for someone. And they don't have to apply for a work visa for you. You get the student visa, kind of a 1 year extension. Yeah, so I did that first after my undergrad. Then I did that a second time after my MBA. So I was working the system a little bit, and it meant that I really had a chance to bet on myself and say, hey, company, hire me for a year, and I'll show you I'm worth the value for you to then go through the whole legal experience to give me a work visa.
Correct. Because it is a long process, to give you that work visa. And you're still on a time crunch, too, on that, so you got to be careful.
That's right, yeah. So once you get the ability to work, I forget the name of that type of visa right now, but you get however many years, 5 years, and you become a green card holder. And that's harder to come by now.
It's very.
Yeah, even optical.
Even getting a visa, it's very difficult. And, we're friendly with UK. We love UK.
Sure.
But like for India or China, the population is a lot larger, and it's harder to get visas for those countries as well.
Yeah, there's a lottery now, I believe. So
I've heard of that.
Yeah, the ability to actually get one of the available visas has been more challenging.
Most definitely.
Which then makes it even more important to differentiate yourself as a person with your background, your education, your internships, and then when you're looking for a job, someone to hire you, you're then that much more able to stand out from everybody else. So that makes it easier for them to apply for that visa for you.
Most definitely. What was that mindset like? There had to be a point in time where, that visa was coming up and you're like, well, I got to figure something out. What was that mindset and that feeling like?
Yeah. So the most hairy story around that
let's hear it.
was 2014. So I'm working for a company after I've got my MBA, and I was an account manager. So hired me straight out of grad school, and I got my butt handed to me.
Yeah.
So I'm an account manager for this retail company. They hired me to manage their Coach accounts, so Coach domestic and international.
Okay.
Helping run all their store operations.
All right.
And the first trip to Manhattan to fly up and meet with the operations team, something had just gone horribly wrong, and they just chewed me out. Andy,
Really?
what are you going to do to fix this? I'm like, I just got hired a week ago. Anyway, fast forward 2 years, and the company had gone to a really struggling place. New venture-backed company came in to buy them, new leadership team. And so at this point, I am engaged to my now wife. And
congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, celebrating 10 years this year.
There we go. I'm excited about that.
So I'm on a work visa, new leadership team, new ownership. Things were a bit sketchy.
Yeah.
And one day they asked me to lie to our clients. And
bullshit.
Yeah, no, they did. I tell you the truth. They asked us to lie to
Really?
our clients. So I've been there almost a couple of years.
And this was pretty big company.
Yeah.
Publicly?
Private? Privately held.
Interesting.
But there was some things going on the West Coast operation. They said, just don't tell them anything
Now
about
you're
it.
in a position where I can tell right when you walked into this room how you are, your character, your morals, and I can read people very quickly on that. And I feel, correct me if I'm wrong, you now just got put into a position where you're like, I don't do that. And now you want me to do that. If I don't do that, you're probably going to reprimand me and I lose my job.
Yeah, tough spot to be in.
Very much so.
This happened, I don't know, maybe a Monday morning, Tuesday morning. And so I go home at lunch. I call my fiance and say, honey, I have to resign today. And she said, tell me more. What do you mean you have to resign today? I said, well, I was asked to lie. You know who I am as a person. My integrity is everything to me. I'm going to resign. And here's what this means. My work visa will get canceled. And so we need to go and visit with an attorney this afternoon, tomorrow, and figure out what the options are.
Next steps?
Yeah, so next steps were either you can get another work visa within the next 2 weeks, you can fly home to England and start the fiancé visa process.
Yeah, that's the process too. That's a long process.
It is.
It's not like 90 Day Fiancé on TV.
Yeah, so I would be back in the UK, my fiancé here, and I'd have to be there until that whole thing worked out.
Correct.
He said, option number 3, how about I go to the courthouse this afternoon and get married? And so I look at, I turn, I look at my
that's
fiancé.
a big step too. I mean, I know you guys were
Massive.
engaged, but that's huge.
Yes.
To say, hey, we got to rush this.
Yeah. And so I honor my wife to this day and forevermore because she said, hey, let's go home and talk about this. And we had a conversation. She said,
she's very mature, it sounds like, where she can have high level conversations.
She is the best. So she says to me, you know what? I wanted to marry you a few months ago when we got engaged. I still want to marry you.
I love that.
Let's do it. And she said, the Bible verse that came to her was, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, render unto God's what is God's. So if you staying here is about you being legally allowed to stay in the country and you're leaving your job because of your values and ethics, you can't stay here illegally. It's like no brainer. So we got married in a private ceremony a couple weeks later, and so I could stay here legally.
Unbelievable.
And so I'm leaving this big corporate job, flying to Manhattan every few months, to then spending the next few months cleaning warehouses, delivering furniture, doing lawn care maintenance, and working as a front desk receptionist with an MBA because my values and ethics meant too much to me. I said, I'd rather walk away from this and know something's going to work out on the other side of it.
Correct.
And step away. So my visa process was then about, okay, we're now married officially. Now we can apply. Now
and that application, I mean, that takes a long time too. You don't just apply and a week later they say, hey, all right, you're good to go.
That's right. Yeah. It took probably 90 days of just doing odds and ends, making
It'll probably be quicker to walk across our southern border these days.
Probably.
These days.
Yeah. So it took a minute, but thankfully the green card came in like a week before the wedding, which meant we could go on our honeymoon. And you can
come back safely. Like you don't have any trouble with customs,
the border patrol issues.
Yeah.
And then we got back, and I was able to start applying, and that was where I got my start in finance shortly after that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So throughout that journey, I mean, that definitely has to be challenging. And those are tough conversations too. Thankfully
Right.
you have a wonderful woman by your side who understands that and knows the process and knew the process when she first met you, not, being legal here, with citizenship and things like that, which is super important. And now congratulations, you're here. You're
Thanks.
good.
Yeah.
You can always come back, back
Absolutely.
and forth.
Yeah, actually became a citizen in January. So
this
dual
year,
citizen.
congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
There you go. I love that. Love that. And so you've always had that heart to help out, and it shows through experience. Talk to us about, the coaching program and what you're doing on that end.
Yeah, so coaching has become a passion for me, probably going back to when I started as a leader.
I love
So for a lot of people, when you want to get into management, want to be a leader, the truth is you don't know what you're doing.
No.
You don't have a clue.
And I say this all the time. It is very difficult to manage people.
It's true.
One thing that Stephanie can tell you and any of the team member, everyone has to take the DISC test, DISC, and the 5 love language test when they come on
So
board.
good.
Everyone has to take that. And you get an understanding on people's personality. And we share that amongst everyone within the investment side of the company, so people understand how to communicate with each other. Because there's always going to be times something goes wrong. And you're going to have to communicate to someone. And if you don't communicate properly, they can shut down. And mentally, they're not going to understand it. So it's super important to understand that. And if you practice that at a very high level, I can understand it just by a phone call and a first couple, words you and I exchange over the phone without even looking at your body language.
Right.
And then you get so good is where you can just look at someone's body language and you can automatically kind of categorize them into, that category, which is super important.
Yeah.
So with this, let's talk about this, what you really dive deep and specialize on, because there's coaching programs in anything out there. What is that niche that you have?
Yeah. So when I launched this, I thought, like probably a lot of coaches and business owners, let me go and do what I know really well.
Yeah.
I have navigated my corporate career pretty well, from getting into early leadership to executive roles. And I thought, I know how to navigate career changes, and I'm good at it, and I can help other people do that. And so I realized I've got a lot of purpose and personal passion in like helping people make that change. So I've done that with a number of clients, helped someone move from the mortgage industry to tech last year to work at LinkedIn, helped a mum after 12 years being out of employment to get into a nonprofit, her dream role. And so I found a lot of enjoyment in that. But man, this last year, it's really transitioned.
Yeah.
I felt like I'd really cornered myself in this whole career coaching thing, only to realize that underneath the root of that for me is helping people transform their lives. And I think that starts a lot of what you were talking about. Do you know who you are as a person?
Correct.
Your love languages. Do you know your tendencies? Do you know your preferences, the way you think? Because all the things we do in life, the things we say, the way we show up, our behaviors, start with beliefs.
100%. And I think a big thing too is that, and I always say this, is that you cannot love someone unless you love yourself. You cannot give love or receive love unless you love yourself. And how do you love yourself? That is up to you to figure out, in my opinion.
Yep.
What I have done is I've been single for a long time. I've traveled by myself. I love traveling by myself. And people are like, you travel by yourself? Like, oh my God. And that's because, psychologically, people can't be by themselves. If you look, all these millennials, majority of the millennials have pets. Now, don't get me wrong. I love dogs. I love animals, but they need some sort of being or, spiritual, soul near them. They can't just sit in a room by themselves and relax. And to get to that point, I wouldn't say master meditation, but I've definitely practiced it substantially. And meditation has definitely helped me enjoy being by myself, loving myself, so I can give and receive love both to my team, my team, my company, and then also, to the individual that I meet that I have a huge passion for. Also my son as well, and I think a lot of people don't love themselves. They don't understand themselves, but they go out and try to coach, or go out and try to manage when they don't understand themselves truly.
Yeah. My coach told me maybe 12 months ago, you can only take another person as far as you've gone yourself. So
that's deep.
Unless you've done the deep work to grab a shovel, go dig and figure out, why do I show up this way? Why do I react in anger? Why do my insecurities show up in these situations? And once you can understand it, I'm a huge proponent of counseling and therapy, because it doesn't heal, it reveals. Counseling and therapy can reveal what's broken.
Correct. It's not going to heal.
You then need to go and do the deep work to say, why am I showing up that way? What's the belief that causes me to react this way?
Most definitely.
And we're all made up of different parts. And there's these parts of us that will defend that 7-year-old boy who was rejected or feels hurt.
Yep.
Our brain's still wired to
Your
go back and
mind
defend.
is so strong, and people don't take care of it. And I've said a Warren Buffett quote before about, if you can have any car in the world, what type of car would it be? But the caveat is you have to keep it for the rest of your life. You would baby it, but people don't do that to their mind because you only get one mind. I make investor calls on a daily basis, and I love talking to investors. I love help educating them about the car wash sector and what we're doing. And I get a handful of people. They're like, "You own the company. Why are you talking to me?" And one, it's because I enjoy it. But two, I lead by example. My team knows I'm leading the team head on, and I'm not afraid to get in the trenches and work.
Yep.
I'm not, and Stephanie and everyone in my team will tell you, I don't need sleep. I will operate 24 hours with no sleep. You'll get an email at 4 a.m.
Wow.
And that is because I'm a leader compared to being someone in the back trying to push people. And there's a huge difference. But I would not ask them to do something that I've not already done or that, I'm currently doing. And I think that's super important when people are trying to lead and trying to create a coaching program is you're only good as what you know, essentially. You can only give as what you know. And if you don't have enough knowledge, you really can't give that much, and you're not that valuable.
Yeah, so I think about it on a spectrum. You've got a manager who would tell you what to do.
Correct.
You've got a mentor who can show you where they've been.
Yep.
And you've got a coach that helps you understand who you are, what you want to be, and where you want to go, and does a lot more asking of questions than telling you.
Yeah.
And so there's a spectrum that I think we can all, as leaders in business, in life, in organizations, play in all three roles.
100%.
But my goal as a coach is not to say here's the answer. It's to help you do that internal work to figure out who you want to be, where you want to go.
100%. Your goal is to ask the proper questions,
Yep.
and then the answers I give to you, I then say, "Oh wait, I just answered my own answer. Like now I understand."
Yep.
But it's asking the proper questions. And the biggest thing is people are so, and even the younger generation, they're so easy to drop money on college, drop money on, certain type of education, that is like that. But they're so hesitant to hire a coach or a mentor. And I highly recommend everyone, no matter what career you're in, have that coach, have that mentor, because you will go through roadblocks. And depending on what journey you go through and what business you operate, there's going to be a lot of setbacks and a lot of challenges. And if you don't have someone to speak to, you're gonna fail.
Yeah.
You're going to fail. I hate to say it, but it's going to happen. And I have tons of coaches, tons of mentors that I called up today and I said, "Hey, I know the answer, but I want to say it to you to see if I am retaining it properly."
Yep.
And he's like, "Okay, I'll be the sounding board." And he was the sounding board. And then he hit back with the right questions. And I was like, "Yeah, I know it. I just needed myself to say it out loud to someone to understand it."
Yeah, so good. I think we all have blind spots.
We do.
And without the right people in our lives, whether it's someone you hire as a coach or a therapist or a person that can guide you, or just someone in your life that is a friend, a spouse, or whatever, it's hard to see those spots, the blind spots. And so
we don't want to see them sometimes.
It's true.
We want. I always say if you look at the Kentucky Derby or any horse race, they have blinders on, and sometimes it's good to have blinders. Don't get me wrong. Like having the book The Why. One thing also. It's good to have one thing and you're locked in, but it's also good to make sure you can open those blinders because I'm not always right. And as a leader, I think my team respects me because I'll go into certain situations and I'm like, "You guys are right, I'm wrong." Let's take it and let's run with it.
I think the beauty of that is with you as a leader doing that, you're then showing them what does it look like to fail forward. Yeah. And you're developing the behaviors you want your team to see. And so you're telling them it's okay to fail. Yeah. It's good to fail. If we fail, that creates a learning moment that helps us then grow and get better in the future.
Most definitely. Yeah. So when it comes to the coaching program that you're operating, talk to us about the niche of the industry. There's tons of different type of industries. What type of industry do you really, gravitate towards and really help out?
Yeah. So I mentioned that I've predominantly coached people through career transitions. So I'm still getting clients through that kind of area. What I love about it is that I mentioned the word transformation earlier, which could be overused a little bit, but for me, I want to see people's lives transformed from where they are operating in one way and they think this is the best I can get out of life. This is the best type of jobs I can get. These are the opportunities I can get. And I'm trying to help them peel back to, what belief do you have that's driving your behavior?
Mm.
And so what's cool about that is though a lot of the clients I'm getting are still making that career transition, or, hey, I just turned 40. I want to figure out, what am I going to do with the second half of my life? Do I want to continue in this role for the next 10 years? So that's where a lot of the folks I'm working with have come from.
They're in a gray area.
Yeah.
They're unsure.
They're looking for clarity. Aren't we all? Right? We're
They're
looking
looking for
like,
guidance.
yes.
You know?
Yeah. So my job is to coach, guide, and lead them to figure out who they want to be.
Yeah.
And so often, the way they're showing up in the world isn't what they want. For all of us here at the table, everyone listening to the podcast, there's opportunities to
most definitely.
to like dig deeper. And so I wouldn't say it's a specific niche I'm in right now. It's more, I'm trying to figure out where this pivot in my business is coming from, where I'm now able to start helping other people go to that deeper journey that I've been on to say, gosh, why am I thinking this way? How do I reframe this thought process or this mindset? Because all of those beliefs we have trickle through all areas of our life. So,
and a lot of these beliefs can be, fearful. And a lot of these beliefs can be fear that we have in our own mind that are limiting 100% our success. I mean, there's been tons of times back in the day when I first created the brokerage I was operating, and I would be afraid to cold call. And I'd sit there, and I'm sure a lot of people can resonate, is that they were afraid to call someone on the phone. And then they call and it goes, ding, 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 number's been disconnected, or, there's no one here. And it's like, did I just really waste 5 minutes of my time thinking about calling because I was nervous, and then I called and it was disconnected? So now I don't care. I'll call anyone. And I think a lot of people have the misconception that even these large, C-suite executives, prominent business owners, they don't have that type of fear. We have different type of fear. Everyone is different when it comes to fear. We have all different types of fear and things like that. What have you found amongst, all of your coaching clients, something that's in common, something that you're seeing common, given the current market environment, given to where we're at right now, that you see a trait that's common and that you've helped them, really think through that to break it?
Imposter syndrome is the biggest one.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Interesting. So thinking on what other people think about me.
Yeah. Yeah. And
that is huge, especially with social media. I get hated on social media, and I'm not even that large right now. And I talk to Stephanie every single day about where we're going and how we're going to grow it substantially. And I'm like, well, if I'm not even where I want to be and I'm still getting hated on, I can't wait to hit there, because I'm going to have so many of them, and that is huge. I definitely can see that.
Yeah. I think we're all on this scale between imposter syndrome and all the way over to like narcissism.
Oh, 100%.
And so much of what I see are people who think, I'm not good enough. I don't fit in here.
Yeah.
I don't know if what I'm bringing to the table is enough. And so in corporate America, it's huge, because like you just said, you want to pick up the phone, you want to make that cold call, but there's something that's saying, I'm not good enough. What if they don't like me? What if I'm rejected?
I hope you're enjoying today's episode. Just a quick reminder to make sure you never miss an episode. Stay connected with us by following us on social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, TikTok at Chris_Salerno_. And don't forget to subscribe to YouTube to catch the video versions of our episode. You'll get exclusive content, behind-the-scenes footage, and much more. Head over to YouTube, Chris_Salerno now, and hit the subscribe button. Stay tuned, because we've got more great content coming right after this. Do you think it is, and I think it is, I'd love to hear your opinion, is social media plays a huge negative impact on it. And the reason why is that, look at society today. We have all these social media models that look stunning, perfect bodies. Well, a lot of them are photoshopped. I promise you, I've seen some of them. They don't look like that in person. They definitely don't look like that in person. So do you feel like a lot of these individuals are on social media and they see, oh, so-and-so's in a private jet, a Lamborghini, they're flaunting their success, but also behind the scenes, I've dug into a lot of these companies or these YouTubers or influencers. And when you dive into their companies, they're not as profitable as they're portraying to be profitable. Do you think social media has played that negative impact?
100%, because I think that comparison is the thief of joy. So when people are scrolling and they don't have joy in their own life, they don't feel fulfilled or happiness. They're looking at other people's
seeking it
flex
somewhere else.
And
because they're not happy with themselves.
Right. Social media is a huge flex, and so much of the content you're talking about, I'll say that's not really shown up in my algorithm. The jets and the parties and fancy cars, but it is to a lot of people. It doesn't matter what level it's at. everyone is having to fight the comparison trap.
Most definitely.
And social media is a highlight reel. And so that's why, I try and limit how much I'm on there
You
and
have
what
to.
I'm following.
It sucks you
because
in.
it does.
It's like a drug mentally that it's addicting to a certain extent, or to a very large extent, but it's something, it hits that dopamine in the brain where it is like, okay, I'm addicted. I have to be laser focused in here and forget everything that's around me.
Yeah, and the gig as an entrepreneur, someone who's building a following.
You have to be on it.
You do, but man, you've got to be careful that you don't get
You
too
have to
far in
limit
it.
Oh, 100%. Thankfully, I have a wonderful team that, post and things like that for me, because I couldn't imagine if I was doing that myself, and because I know I would get stuck on my newsfeed.
Right. Yeah. So probably about a year ago, I started getting a lot more intentional about how I was posting on LinkedIn, building my following there. Hit about 10,000 followers, and I thought, okay, I've got to be on this.
Yeah.
They're expecting something now.
100%.
I need to post regularly.
They're not just
I need
following you
new
just to follow
engaging
you.
content. Right. But you can easily get sucked into a point with creating the content that you get burnt out.
Most definitely. I mean, we're heavily on LinkedIn, heavily on all social media platforms. And sometimes when I'm on LinkedIn, and I've gotten clients, I get a lot of clients from social media. I look and I'm like, how is it? This person has to be on LinkedIn 8 hours a day. Like, I see them posting, I see them commenting. I'm like, they have to literally be on LinkedIn 8 hours a day. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And I think social media has definitely created that imposter syndrome. And it comes down to, do you truly love yourself? Do you know who yourself is? And if you're happy with yourself, who cares? Someone's all, I'm not trying to have a 12-pack. That's not my goal, is to have a 12-pack.
Yeah, I'm not going to get there either.
Correct. I'm happy with my body. I'm healthy. I'm fit. I'm strong. I'm happy. But my goal is not to have a 12-pack. My goal is to be the best father I can be the best leader for my company I can be, and run a big organization. And, it's just shocking on social media what you can portray and not portray on there.
Yeah. Opportunities are everywhere.
Yeah.
Focus is really hard to get. And
Most
so
definitely.
when you have goals and visions like you do, and a purpose that's driving you, it's really easy to get distracted.
Oh my
and
God.
So your ability to stay focused, to support the people that you support in your business and your family, your son, and really give them your full presence.
Yeah.
It just means so much more to them. All of those people on social media, they may never know who you are in the future ever, but the people in your life, when you invest intentionally there, those are the dividends that pay.
Most definitely. One thing I do is that when I'm spending time with my son, I will put my phone on Do Not Disturb, or I will put my phone down for a couple hours, so he has that true one-on-one. Because I've watched YouTube videos of them doing tests of parents on their phone, parents off their phone, and actively playing with cars and Legos, and you see the total difference of awareness in your child. And I do that right before he goes to bed. Once he's asleep, then I address whatever I need to address. But I think it's super important to do that. And so going from that imposter syndrome to the narcissist side, where have you found that common ground amongst, all your clients, where you're like, look, like, this is what have been successful with previous clients, and this is what you should work on? Yeah.
So my whole life have dealt with imposter syndrome, which is why I think I've had clients that I've been able to help in that area. I haven't had a narcissist client just yet, probably because they don't think they need a coach.
100%.
They were like, I've got it. I'm good.
I've got it handled.
I know what I'm
don't
doing.
need it. Yeah. And that sounds like their personality.
Right. That's their MO.
100%. Yeah. They don't want any business partners. They don't want anyone to help them.
They've got to figure it out.
And it's easy to find them, especially when you're working with one, because, like I said, when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And I'll tell you I'm wrong.
Yep.
And because why? I want to know the right way. And narcissists I've worked with them, they're not going to tell you they're wrong. They're going to point fingers at you and say you're wrong, but they will never admit guilt. And so I definitely understand that they probably don't want a coach. They think they can conquer the world on their own. And hey, there's a piece for those people out there to do that. Go do it yourself. But it's more enjoyable and fulfilling when you can bring a team alongside of you and do it.
Yeah.
When you can help other people's lives and then you watch their impact. That's more enjoyable.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So back to the question around folks struggling with the imposter syndrome. Things I see across the board with people are kind of similar to what I shared a few minutes ago, that I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I fit in. I don't have what it takes. And ultimately, behind those beliefs that people have developed, there is a situation that caused that. And so I'm a big, huge proponent
Does
of...
it go back to childhood?
100%. That's where I was going with this. I'm on my way.
I knew it. Go ahead. I'll shut up. Go ahead.
I'm on my way. And so I'm a huge proponent of mental health and encourage everyone, if you've not gone to counseling, I'll say this. I've been to some bad counselors.
Yeah. There are bad and good ones.
Yeah.
You know, just like any industry, you have bad and good doctors, attorneys,
Absolutely.
you name it, but there's bad and good ones.
Yeah. So what I've found most beneficial is an organization called IFS.
IFS.
Internal Family Systems. And it's a methodology of therapy that helps you understand all of the parts that make up who you are as a person. And all of those parts go back to how we grew up, childhood.
Yeah. I heard also there's big psychedelics out there like ayahuasca and mushrooms that also, tap into that. It goes back to your childhood traumas.
Interesting. I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
It sounds interesting.
Check it out. I've done a lot of research on ayahuasca and certain type of mushroom strains, but a lot of it will tap back down to your childhood traumas. And a lot of people, that's why you have a shaman to walk you through it, because it's super important, because a lot of people will do that type of ceremony and get attacked in that childhood trauma and freak out. But they go back, and it's supposed to help you understand what went on and how to move forward from it.
Yeah.
And so you're 100% right. It bears in that childhood trauma.
So our brains actually capture and carry all of our memories going back to like in utero. So before we're born. So all of that trauma is kept in, I think, the right-hand side of our brain. And all of those memories are there, but they're subconscious, so we can't tap into them immediately. So this IFS counseling helps me really think through a situation or a behavior or a feeling that's coming up. And then we'll sit and go through like, okay, what's present? Think about that situation or how you're feeling. Yeah. Where are you feeling it physically in your body? When is a memory that you feel like triggered this thing? And suddenly I'll realize, I was 7 years old and feeling sad and rejected. And that's the same feeling I'm feeling now as a 38-year-old man. And so we'll then like have a conversation, and it's a bit different, I'll be honest. So I am, as a grown man, in my mind thinking about that 7-year-old who's hurt and realizing, hey, you grew up to be a grown-up and you're okay now. And you have an incredible wife, you've been really successful in business, you have a wonderful home, and you've traveled the world. And you start to like extend grace and empathy to that 7-year-old part of you. And now it starts to feel like, oh, I don't have to feel hurt anymore, because I now know I'm in relationship with the grown-up version of me. And so you do all of this deep work to like learn all these parts of who you are and the responses that come out of nowhere where you get mad about something and you're like, where did that come from?
Oh yeah.
There is a part of you that is protecting another part that feels hurt. It's really deep. It's really deep work.
You are 100% on that. I'll never forget her name. Her name's Miss Dudley. If she ever follows me, thank you so much. She was my like 4th grade, 5th grade teacher, and I used to be a firecracker. So if you knew me back then, I was a firecracker. You say something, firecracker. And she sat me down one time and she's like, Chris, next time count to 10 very slowly, analyze everything, and then assess it. Yep. And so I did that. And then now I'm the complete opposite. It's very difficult to get me riled up. I'm high energy because I have a passion for what I do, but it's very difficult to get me riled up. I will not get mad because, it's like, okay, cool, have a nice day. Right. But it took a lot of time to practice that.
That's right.
A lot of time to practice that, healing and mental work. And I'm a big component of meditation. I love meditation. I think that can really help someone as well.
Yeah, I think the more self-awareness we have in life, the better capable and able we are to show up as the people we want to be.
Most definitely.
And there are these things called say-do gaps.
Say-do gaps.
Yeah, you say one thing about yourself. Yep. I value relationships. But then do you follow through on connecting with people?
Are you taking that action?
Person back?
Yeah.
And so the gap between what we say, our values, and the things we do, our actions.
Are they connecting?
Yeah, we have to narrow those down. I just got a new favorite leadership and business book by a guy named Ron Carucci. He was just in Charlotte a few weeks ago. Ron Carucci, look it up. He's a phenomenal author, researcher, and he just wrote a book around really about truth and lying. We all lie to ourselves, and the truth about how we operate, about how organizations operate, is so interesting and powerful. So
we do. We always inflate things. Everyone does.
Yeah, and he explains in his book the science behind how our brains and our bodies work, and how so often we're not trying to go out and lie and be bad people, but we are protecting ourselves physically, mentally. This is
100%.
reactions that come around. And he walks through how this happens in organizations, how organizations operate, don't create this space for truth and honesty. But anyway, so I've been doing all this digging myself to figure out, why do I show up this way? Why are my behaviors in a way that are not aligned with my values? And so as I dig in there and I spend time thinking about who I want to be.
When you're spending time thinking, are you, is it like meditation? You're in a quiet room, quiet setting. It's your zone where you can just be calm. You're not in a high, fast-paced zone. Or that may be some, best places to think. I've been in some very high-end, I will say I've been out before at a nightclub, loud music, and I've enjoyed getting into my thoughts because I'm just like, I zone out and I'm in my thoughts. So where's that place for you where you really do your best thinking?
So I learned this time last year that I have ADD.
Okay.
So 37 years old, had no idea why my thoughts my whole life have just been like all over the place. So that gave me clarity to realize why I'm taking a shower and I'm having a deep, thoughtful conversation in my head around this thing, or I'm cooking something on the grill, or I'm on a jog. So it's not always sitting with my notebook, in my office with a cup of coffee or tea. I'm British, I should say.
Tea or tea.
I'm on brand.
Have you stopped having tea?
So I actually have transitioned back from coffee to tea.
Okay, good.
I think the older I get, the more British I have to feel.
I was going to say,
we gotta be on
they
brand.
may take back your citizenship if you're not having tea.
Exactly. Yes. So I do find the quiet time in my office with a notebook, with my Bible, reading some scripture.
Love that.
Really good time for me to sort of think about who I am, to meditate on something, a Bible verse that really stands out to me. But so often, because of the ADD, I can just be anywhere.
Yeah.
And suddenly a thought catches me. I'm driving home from work and I'm thinking about something and I'm like, oh, I should write a post on LinkedIn about that tomorrow. And sometimes I'll pull over and write it down on my phone because I'll forget it by the time I get home.
I've done that so many times. I know there's apps out there that you can just speak into and it will categorize it and things like that. But you are spot on. It when you have that thought, it's good. I just text Stephanie. She loves that. But that's super important so you don't lose it.
Yeah, I think the ability to take a thought and develop it. Somebody told me a while ago, I don't know which book this comes from, but your first 15 to 20 ideas around a concept are trash. Once you get to the 20th iteration of that idea, that's when true creativity comes out.
Most definitely.
As I'm, partly doing this kind of deep inner work, but also using some of that to say, well, can I write a post about this to help someone else? My notes app on my phone is pretty deep because I'm like version 1, version 2.
You'd be shocked on what you are thinking about in your mind, and you're pulling over, you're writing that, or writing it down to make a LinkedIn post later, or you're making a LinkedIn post right there. You'd be shocked on how many people will actually read it and resonate and be like, wow. I get so many messages and people are like, thank you so much for posting it. Like, it resonated with me. It fulfills me.
Yep.
And, that's enjoyment, I feel, in ourselves, that in fulfilling in ourselves when we fulfill someone else.
100%. That for me was what I think set apart my realization that, I've got something to share with the world. I started posting on LinkedIn probably 2011 or 12 when I was in grad school, and I thought, I want to be a leader one day. What do leaders do? They say inspirational things. So let me post some inspirational stuff. And, I'd post it. I'd go out, play golf for 9 holes with some of the guys on the team, come back and think, man, I bet this went viral. And it had 3 likes, and one of them was my mom. And so that didn't even count. So I was like, okay, this is not it. I need to figure out who I am, what my message to the world is, and then I'll be at a place where when I say something, it'll be from a lived experience. It'll be genuine. And then when I share something,
you can build that connection deeper.
Yeah, then and that person it'll resonate with them, and they'll say, I feel seen. And so for me, most of what I try to write now on LinkedIn, and probably for the last 3 years, has been like, what's the most authentic thing I can share? And my wife and I were driving back from Greenville, South Carolina, having a conversation. And she said, you can't just share your wins. You've got to share your losses.
100%.
And those failures are what other people see themselves in. Yeah. And so once I started doing that,
you started seeing
the LinkedIn impact was growing, and posts would get 10, 30, 50,000 views.
Holy cow.
And it was, I think the first time I went viral on LinkedIn, it just had a very simple post that said, I lost my job.
Yeah.
And I shared the story on the other side of the situation So I was flying back from Detroit, was meeting and doing a presentation on our broker division's strategy to the leaders at Rocket Mortgage,
Okay.
with the COO in the room, and me and our vice president of operations were presenting. Here's the, I guess it was probably like the 2015 strategy for operations for next year.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm flying back, and I remembered, gosh, it was only a couple years ago that I'd lost my job. I was laid off at Wells Fargo. It was my first gig in finance, laid off at Wells Fargo, thinking like, where is this going to go? And here I am, fast forward a few years later, on a plane home, having just delivered this strategy presentation to the CEO of the company, realizing, man, all this stuff works out in reverse. In the moment, you're sad, you're fearful, you're frustrated, but on the other side of it, there are incredible things that life opens up for us. So for me, when I started writing posts like that, where I shared catching an L, as they say, I realized,
most definitely,
and I say, hey, I want to give you hope. I want to help you realize that on the other side of your current struggle, there is a better day. There's another opportunity.
You have to stay consistent and power through it, because it's coming. You're going to have those struggles. And especially in the business finance world, it's the Hunger Games. I tell everybody, it's the Hunger Games. You better be prepared. If you are not prepared, we all know what happens in the Hunger Games. And the biggest thing is you're going to have tough times. The pressure is going to be very, very hard on those shoulders. But you have to stay consistent, and you have to keep pushing through.
Yeah, and when you're in that spot, I think that's why it's important to, one, know your purpose.
100%.
Who are you? Where are you going? What's the
Because you can
value
handle
you're
more
giving to the
pressure
world?
if you know and love who you are.
Yeah, because and when those failures come, you're then able to reflect back and say,
Oh, yeah.
this was a bad situation, or I failed this project, or this deal didn't go through, and I feel responsible for my team because I dropped the ball in whatever was going on with that investor relationship.
Most definitely.
But on the other side of it, what's the learning? What's the thing you take out of it? Because that learning then propels you to that next deal, that next season, that next situation where you can say, this didn't go well. We gathered our learning moments, and now we're going to build on top of that. That's where your foundation is. I'm working on a new keynote that I'm delivering in a few weeks.
Okay.
And one of the things that I'm going to add to this keynote, it's a new variation of one I've done before, is pictures of the London bombings when the Blitz came through in World War II.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you've ever seen it.
No.
A lot of the buildings in London still have the
holes.
impacts.
Really?
And debris.
Debris, all that.
And so I learned this recently that tons of all the rubble from the buildings that were blown down were moved to this one big area in London, and they covered it with soil, and they seeded it, and it became like 100 soccer pitches for the communities to gather after World War and build and do community together and play soccer and enjoy life, their freedom after World War II.
Yeah.
So what I've realized is so often we want our buildings and our bricks to be pristine. We just want the wins in life. And what great lives and great careers are built on is this foundation of losses 100%. And mistakes and things that we learn. And you're going to get wins along the way.
That's right.
But you're going to have a lot more of those broken, jaded bricks on the foundation.
Correct.
To then build something positive on top of it.
No, I love that. You know, what we talked about on, getting out of that social media is ahead, because when you look at social media, it's the pretty bricks, it's the high-rise buildings that are shiny, everything going on, but we don't know how their foundation is. That foundation may be a sinkhole under that building. You don't know, because that's what social media can portray. And you really need to have that laser vision on focusing on yourself, where you can build what you want to build, and have a camera crew along the way so they can document your journey. I think that's super important.
I think personally, one of the things I've realized is that it's okay to not post everything on social media too.
I'll tell you, it's very difficult for me. I mean, we're doing a huge push on social media at the second half of 2024, but it's very difficult for me because I don't want to have my phone in my face, all the time.
Exactly.
I like that one-to-one moment. We can have a cigar. I can hang out with my son. I don't want that phone in my face all the time. But, we are transitioning. I got to get out of my comfort zone a little bit, because social media has definitely changed the world as well in a positive way, where you can contact a lot more people. You can impact more lives, at a greater scale than we could back in the day. But I think there's definitely a fine balance you got to be careful of.
Yeah, I think as you develop whatever the goals are for your business and all the other business owners that are watching this, knowing I have a clear plan and a direction for where this is going to go, build social media and use your platform to not just build a business, but make an impact.
Most definitely.
And then build a process that's manageable.
Yeah.
Where I got lost this past year and got a bit burnt out with creating content was I wasn't just following a very clear process that created balance in my personal life and the business. So I'm running with the business, a new idea. Let me stay up. Yeah, I got to finish this post for tomorrow morning.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, good night, honey. See you in the morning. I got to work on this thing. And
Everyone
realizing
I know,
just wasn't good balance.
No, you're right. Everyone who I know who operate very high podcasts at a very high level, they have one day, filming day. Like that's it. And I talked to a buddy of mine out in San Diego, and I said, hey, would love to be on the podcast. He said, I'd love to have you on. We film on Wednesdays. I'm like, well, Wednesdays are tough for me. And so, I think him and I can definitely work something out. However, that's when he films, is on Wednesdays. You have to have that consistency, in that the best time management to operate it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
It's so good. I think the ability to have simple, repeatable processes in our lives and our businesses create really that set us up for success.
100%. So getting back your clients, you're helping them find that path of what they want to do, transitioning. Some hop back in the job industry, some retire. What's that final end goal for them?
I have not had anyone retire just yet. That would be amazing to help someone find that season of retirement. But I've had people that have been out of work for a while, and here's why I set them up. I say, hey, when we start this process, I want you to think about this like a marathon. You said you ran track. I don't know if you were a sprinter.
I was a sprinter.
So I ran the 100 and the 4x1 in high school
too.
as well. Yeah,
I did too.
So I liked a fast
I did too.
pace.
And it's a lot of people, and I ran the 64, all that.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't understand. We trained hours on a daily basis, running at D1 college. And I would only train to run less than 11 seconds, or 10 to 11 seconds, in that ballpark. And that's all I got was 10 to 11 seconds, boom. But hours of training. And that's what it is in business. That's what it is in any type of career you do. You are going to spend all your time. We've had some big MMA fighters and big boxers and bare knuckle fighters on here. They spend countless hours training their body, their mind, physically to only spend 8 to 10 minutes in a ring. Sometimes 30 seconds if they knock their opponent out in first round. But all of that time and energy, you have to stay consistent with it, because at the end of the day, it will prevail in your favor if you stay consistent.
That's the joke about overnight successes, is that they've spent 30 years working to get there, right?
And people don't realize that there's a handful of people in the private equity space that have recently skyrocketed, and everyone's like, wow, you see him, he's only done it in a couple years, things like that. And I've had conversations with them. I'm like, what'd you do before this? Oh, so you spent 15 years building up, your client base and everything, and then now you switched industries. They trust you. You switched industries and you skyrocketed because people only saw those couple years, and that's what it is behind closed doors.
Yeah. So back to the marathon analogy. I try and get my clients, especially those that still working. This isn't going to be an overnight thing.
Correct.
And so the market's like now.
Oh my God. You can't hire, no one's hiring.
Yeah. And in tech, obviously we went through this big, huge impact last year.
VC
the last couple of
and
years.
everything's hard right now.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
So my encouragement to them is prepare mentally for this to be a marathon. And let's spend a few sessions figuring out, one, who you are, what you're great at, what you love. This concept's called Ikigai. That really everything in life can have purpose around it. When you know what you are skilled at, what you find your passion doing, what you can be paid for, and that's where I try and find my clients is let's get you into that space, because then, yes, you can job hop. You can move from a senior manager role to an associate director role to a director role in the same type of thing and find no fulfillment in it. So let's figure out who you are and want to be. And then let's develop a strategy for what types of companies align with your values. Because again, you can go work for any company and they'll say on the website, they'll say they'll have posters in the building. This is who we are. This is what we believe. This is our vision.
Mission statement, core values. We have a mission statement, core values as well.
But so many companies don't live up to that.
They don't.
It's the say-do gap again.
Correct. Yeah. They don't take action.
And so I want my clients to find a company that they can truly believe in and know, okay, there's more than just a paycheck coming from here. There's a purpose. I can show up in the morning and know the work I'm doing is contributing to something bigger than myself. So I help the clients figure out who they are, where they want to go, what types of organizations are out there. And then it's kind of the sales pitch is then how do we tell your story in a unique way that when you're writing the cover letter, you're sending in the resume, you're interviewing, I try to get folks to realize I want you to be the obvious choice. I want for those folks to say,
be like, this is a no-brainer. We got to bring this person on or we'll lose this person.
Yeah, there's no other person we should have in the seat. And so let's tell the folks on the podcast, the secret is questions.
Yeah.
At the end of an
I was
interview,
gonna
the questions
say that
are the
everything
secret
I've
sauce.
gotten out of this is asking the right questions. And
True.
I'll never forget, I had a job operating a local amusement park here in the security division, and I had one boss. Her name was Debbie. I won't say her last name. However, what she taught me through that position was asking questions. She would ask me so stringent, detailed questions that I didn't even think of. And I would leave like, how did she even think of this? So then I start trying to catch on. I hung around her, I hung around her more, walked with her, asked her questions to see how her brain operated. And that is super important. People don't ask the right questions. And I always say, I used to tell everyone, the number one advice I would give is never give up. And it is true. Never give up, stay consistent. But the thing that I have learned now is learn how to speak and learn how to place words into sentences. And that's how you can formulate proper questions, is placing certain words into certain sentences or certain questions to get different type of answers.
Yeah. So emotional intelligence, I think, is one of the superpowers that we can all learn and gain.
And we can practice it.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
You can practice the skills to be better aware of situations you're in and understand yourself. But at the end of an interview, almost every interview, the person doing the interview will say, do you have any questions?
I know. All the time.
And so that's where the secret sauce is
And
for the candidate.
95%, 98% of the people are like, no, not really. Or maybe they'll ask one.
The worst questions.
Yeah, and that one question is the worst. And then after that, they're like, yeah, no, I don't. I've had only a couple candidates that actually came in with the list, and I'm like, you just switched on me. I'm being interviewed.
Yes.
And that, in my opinion, is the proper way to do it, because you're not only being interviewed, you're also interviewing them too to make sure it's a good fit.
Yeah, 100%. I think one of the big reasons that the client of mine that moved from mortgage sales to tech sales was the questions we set him up for. And so this is one of my favorite things to help a client understand is at the end of the conversation, not only are you going to ask questions that are strategic in nature, and here's the goal. You want to ask a question to that hiring manager that they are responsible for.
100%.
If you ask a question that's a level or two above your responsibilities, you're then helping them see, 6 months from now, he's already thinking or she's already thinking this way. I could hand that responsibility off to them. And you ask questions about their culture. I also like to ask challenging questions that puts the interviewer a little bit on the spot.
Most definitely.
To say, that's a great question. Let me think about that.
Yeah.
And then you leave, that's your lasting impression on that person. You walk out of the interview and they're still thinking about those three questions you tailored, you crafted, because you did research on their company.
Yeah.
You spent time understanding who that person was and what problems they're trying to solve.
Most definitely.
And then when you've finished that interview and they're now thinking about your questions, how would I solve that?
Oh, yeah.
Now they're like, that person's on my mind.
Correct.
Let's get that person back in for a panel interview, and suddenly you've set yourself apart from the rest of the candidate group. So questions are the secret sauce in interviews.
Questions are the secret sauce to everything. Everything you do is asking the proper questions. One big thing I do in my hiring process is it's a 3-step process. And after the third step, so you have an interview with me, second interview with me, you meet with the team, third interview with me. And so that could be a 4-step process. But that last one, I ghost them. I want to see if they're willing to follow up, because in sales, your number one success is follow up. And I want to see how hungry they are. Another thing is I mainly hire sports collegiate athletes because I know they're going to follow up. But I will tell you, Sarah on our team followed up with me. I can't countless how many times. She then found at the time my business partner followed up with him, and it was just remarkable. And so that follow-up process shows how dedicated, how consistent she is. And if I can give her a task, I don't have to follow up with her because I know she's going to get it done.
So good.
And so I think those questions following up is super big, especially in this market environment where no one's hiring. A lot of people are laying off because of the current market conditions, and it's very, very difficult to separate yourself apart because you have more people fighting for that one position.
Yeah. So you just gave me a thought from 5 years ago, 2019.
Let's hear it.
I was interviewing for a vice president of customer service role.
Okay.
And they brought me in for like 5-6 hours of interviews, and I just sat with person after person after person. And some of them were pairs. I think I interviewed with 12 people that day.
No way.
12 people in a day.
And one day you sat in the same
back
office.
to back. Yep. And it was a it was a slog. It was a long day.
Oh my goodness.
I got the job. I landed the VP of
There
customer
you
service
go.
role. But I think I'd forgotten the fact that I wrote 12 individual thank you notes that I mailed to the people.
Oh, that is
And
in sales. That is huge. Everyone's left thank you notes.
I came to find out that they compared notes to see if I wrote the same thing.
I want to say the BS word, but I want to make sure I'm good.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
So I found this out after I got the job.
And they were all separate notes.
One of my peers said, I couldn't believe it. Yeah. When
You spent the time because you really thoughtful to write handwritten notes, but separately.
And I thought about the conversation we had, things they said. And so I wrote
Unbelievable.
12 different notes. And then when I found out that they compared to see, did I write the same note 12 times?
Or
It stood out. And so I've forgotten about that completely. But I was selling myself to say, I'm genuine enough, authentic enough to say this mattered. I really want this opportunity. I can make this impact. And I'm going to genuinely thank you for the time you gave me. So
Unbelievable.
thank you notes. That's another
that
gold
you are
nugget.
spot on. We have a couple investors, and I did this with our IR team at the time. We had a couple investors that when you have a really good call, just write a nice note. Hey, I hope all is well. Hope you had a great time at the soccer game with your kids. I really enjoyed our call and getting to know you. Let me know if there's anything. I'm always here. That right there goes a long, long way. The old-fashioned thank you notes. But yeah, you're spot on when it comes to it. I love that. Love that. Let's touch on real quick your decade of experience in the mortgage and fintech industry. For those who may not know what fintech is, let's give them a little background of it, and then talk a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, so finance tech is where the fintech comes from. So I spent a decade.
And that can be tricky meeting both of those.
Yeah, a lot of financial practices are not technology forward.
No, and a lot of them are very slow, where, tech these days, like AI, quick.
Yes.
So when you match both of them, it can be pretty difficult.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll just speak to a little bit of my experience in the mortgage industry.
Yeah.
So working for Wells Fargo, that was an amazing experience. I learned a ton. But man, 275,000 employees, that's a Titanic to move. And technology moved very, very slowly.
You have to do so many beta tests, everything when it comes to that.
And even the hierarchy and the leadership decisions and the amount
level.
of red paper, it was really hard to move something that big quickly. So then I get to jump and move into Rocket Mortgage, which was Quicken Loans at the time. And that experience, much smaller company, I think it's like 15,000 people. And Dan Gilbert, who's the founder and owner of Rocket Mortgage, he really operated like a startup.
I love
and
that.
So it was as if we could think like a startup. We could
Pivot
be
quick.
scrappy. We
100%.
could. And this is something our COO, who became CEO and just recently, I think, retired, he would often say, don't set up a meeting. Just pick up the phone. Just call someone. If you know someone that has the answer, get on the phone and just take care of it right away.
Yeah.
And I think the size of companies across finance and fintech and the broker business, the speed that we move at is the differentiator. And so for me, thinking about what that experience was like in fintech at Rocket and previously being in banking, your ability to build relationships, because we do business with people and through people. That's like the table stakes, is you got to know the right people to do work with and to get things done with and do it in a genuine way.
Most definitely.
That then gives you the opportunity to then move at pace.
Yes.
And when you're supporting customers, clients, the focus isn't on you and just building a profitable business, it's on supporting them. When you keep them at the forefront and you figure out how to work well as an entity internally, communicate effectively because love languages, I'm a high ISC.
Okay.
I'm going to say you've got some high D in you. Is
I
that
do.
accurate? I can tell.
I do.
And so love languages for me, words of affirmation, quality time. And so I did that with my team as well.
I'm the same way. Words of affirmation, quality time, and physical touch.
My third one is acts of service. My wife actually helped me realize that after we'd been married a few years.
I can definitely see acts of service.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
I realized, and I just, again, we have blind spots.
Yeah.
But relationships, moving at speed, and the ability to, like you talked about earlier, follow through.
You have to take action.
And
just
whether
do
it's,
it.
Whether it's in finance or any other industry.
You just got to take action. I mean, you doubting himself is going to be the biggest failure in your career, in your life, And at the end of the day, just take action. Just go do it. What's the worst can happen? Okay, you fail. Get back up and keep going. Stay consistent with it and just take action.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, no, it's super important too. And I love that he operates that company that way, because we pivoted. We used to be big in the multifamily space. Now we're heavy in the car wash space. We probably won't look to go back in multifamily because of the current market environment and where things are at. And, look at COVID. COVID put out so many businesses, but it also flourished so many businesses.
That's right.
And you have to see it from all aspects of life and all different angles, because it grew so many businesses substantially because people pivoted. You have to be nimble to understand the market, where things are going, and pivot.
That's right.
And if you don't, you're going to be put out of business like so many did during COVID.
Yep.
But so many people flourished during COVID as well.
Yeah, so many people like Buffett and other great investors talk about the downturns in the market
Most
are
definitely.
some of the best times to invest, because that's when the opportunity becomes available.
100%. Look at Bill Ackman. I don't know if you know his story. Big billionaire hedge fund guy. What he did was he shorted the market early March, right before COVID. I don't know if he had any insights, but a smart guy shorted the market. He put like 23 or 24 million. Don't hold me to this number, but it was in that ballpark of the 20s of millions of dollars to short the market. He shorted the market. It turned into over I think it was like a $2.4 billion profit.
Wow.
Because in summertime, he ended up getting all of his capital back. Why?
Yeah.
Because everything shut down. The market tanked. Nothing was being operated, and he walked away big profits. I mean, those are unbelievable profits. I think he even says today he wished he put more money in it. Which we all do when things like that happen.
Yeah, hindsight.
But no, you're spot on, and I love how he operates that company and pivoting it. Well, hey, I really enjoyed this, Andy. I know we are running up on time. We're at time. I really want to have you back on to tell more of your story and being over here and everything you're doing. I want to appreciate you for joining us.
Yeah, I would love that. Thanks so much for having me. It's been a great conversation, and wish you and everyone that's listening, all the best with the rest of this year in their business.
Most definitely. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in to the Chris Salerno Show. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and gained valuable insight to help you along your journey. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. If you have any questions or topics that you would like to cover, feel free to reach out directly to me. Shoot me a message on Instagram at Chris_Salerno_. Until next time, keep pushing forward and stay inspired.